Hello, Christ is in our midst. I'm Father Kevin Long of St. Elias Antiochian Orthodox Church in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Today is Wednesday, January 31st, 2024, and here are the readings for today. Today's epistle reading is from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 27 through 31, and chapter 13, verses 1 through 8. Brethren, you are the body of Christ and individually members of it. And God has appointed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then workers of miracles, then healers, helpers, administrators, speakers in various kinds of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all possess gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But earnestly desire the higher gifts, and I will show you a still more excellent way. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 10, verse 1, and verses 5 through 8. Let us be attentive. At that time, Jesus called to him his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal every disease and every infirmity. These 12 Jesus sent out, charging them, Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and preach as you go, saying, The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons. You received without paying, give without pay. Glory to thee, our God, glory to thee. Today in the Orthodox Church, we remember two unmercenary healers, Cyrus and John. And so I thought it would be useful, once again, to talk about unmercenary healers. We know all about mercenaries. We know that mercenaries fought in the Revolutionary War. The Hessians, the Germans, were soldiers that were paid by a foreign government that was not their own to go and fight in a remote location, the colonies, and they did it for money and for sport and for enjoyment and so forth. They didn't have a commitment to the war. They weren't even interested in committing for the war, but what they did is they fought for the side that would pay them the most amount of money. So the unmercenary healers, then, are those who do the opposite. Instead of shooting and killing for money, they heal and restore for free, without any kind of expectation of compensation. Now, that restoration can take place in all sorts of different ways. They can be just doctors. They can go and they can bind wounds and heal people that way, like a doctor without borders we can think of in today's society. Or they can do things that are miraculous. They can heal people that are beyond the ability of a regular physical doctor by healing them in spiritual ways, like Jesus did, restoring sight to the blind, or helping to remove something like leprosy from a person, or other things. We can see examples of these kinds of people in the history of the church that do miraculous things. So the first is the physical, the second is miraculous, the third being givers of Holy Communion and unction. and in that way do spiritually and liturgically what doctors in today's society do through their various applications of pharmaceutical drugs, or even in terms of surgery and things like that. So those three things bring about the restoration of a person who has been wounded, either physically or spiritually, and are brought back into a more calm, normal way of life without the strife of wounds and hurts. So the doctors of this idea, the unmercenary healers, they are spiritual a lot of the time, more than just physical. And we live in a time when we really need this kind of thing. Something that has really struck me, and I guess that's kind of a bad pun, is the inevitability of violence. We live in a time where when we see a violent act take place, especially on the battlefield, we immediately think, well, someone will retaliate as a result. And generally they do. And when they do, they try to retaliate in a way that's overwhelming, so that whatever happened in the first place will never happen again. You can think of things that are going on in the Middle East, or the things that are going around in the periphery of the Middle East that are throwing, places like the United States into the conflict. These things we see and we say, uh-oh, something happened. Well, we know something else is going to happen shortly. And then when that response comes, then there's another response, and so on and so on and so on. We see that also just in terms of, even football. If someone scores a touchdown, we immediately think the other team needs to retaliate and score a touchdown on their own. Find some way to recapture what was lost, either a lead or a tie. We can also think about it in terms of the movies that we watch. If something horrible happens to a person or to that person's friends or family, we can pretty much rest assured by the end of the movie that not only will that wrong be righted, but will be done so in a way, for the most part, that it's decisive. That whoever caused the harm will never cause the harm again. They will either be put in the ground or put in a position where they just can't cause that kind of violence and harm anymore. And we sit back and we say, what a satisfying movie that was. Well, that's not what the unmercenary healers do, and it's not what Christ did. And I know this is somewhat controversial, but what he did, what did he say in the Sermon on the Mount? He said, when someone strikes your one cheek, offer the other cheek as well. If someone compels you to carry a heavy weight for a mile, carry it for 2. If someone demands the shirt off your back, give them your coat as well. I realize that these things are lousy ways to keep power or to stay in charge. But then again, if you think about Christ and the life that he led and the community of people that he has guided, the church grew from 12 plus 70 to millions, not through the enacting of violence, not through responding with overwhelming firepower, but by turning the other cheek, by helping those in the community that are in need, by ministering to them, by being unmercenary healers. So what am I saying? Am I saying that we all have to become pacifists all of a sudden? Well, let's be honest. It'd be nice if we could. It would, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be nice to think that we don't have to worry about the rest of the world being violent? We don't have to worry about people trying to harm us one way or another, either locally or nationally or internationally? Would it be nice if that was possible? No, I don't really think that we need to be that naive. But what we do need to be is aware that those kinds of situations are called for at every time and in every hour. The violence will continue. That's a given. There's nothing that we can do to prevent that, unless everyone becomes like Jesus. And even then, there's no guarantee that that's going to stay that way. Okay? But there is a place for the nonviolent, for the pacifist, for the unmercenary healers. The problem is, in our society, we think it has to be one way or the other. But the reality is, you need both to bring balance. And you only need both because we are tended towards violence. We are tended towards expressions of power and overwhelming people with authority. That is how society is made. But Christ and his way of life is indeed the way where you put down your sword rather than die by it. So, there is a place for the unmercenary healer, and we need to understand and respect that instead of shaking our heads and saying that's lousy for a government or for a society or for anything to allow to exist. I've had so many people say that when they think about unmercenary healers or pacifists, that it's just they kind of get in the way or they're not useful. And that's not true. There are many of us who need to be healed of whatever it is, a physical or maybe a psychological or maybe a spiritual wound that only the compassionate care of an unmercenary healer can give. And yes, those people even exist today. So let's keep that in mind. We're not looking to eliminate violence because that would require force itself, wouldn't it? But instead, what we are looking to do is amplify the level of compassion in the world. Amplify the ability to bring healing and calm and peace and love and reconciliation to God. Bring those things to life in this world. Help to correct the wrongs, not through the expression of some kind of superior violence, but rather to bring it through healing and calmness, and especially love. Now, Cosmas and Damien, Cyrus and John, Pantaleimon, all of these unmercenary healers, they lived in a time not like our own to one degree, but they also committed their lives so highly to this life that they were willing to sacrifice their own lives for it. And that indeed is another one of the possibilities that may come as a result of being this unmercenary healer, that we may find ourselves martyred. Well, what about it? Christ himself died to bring life to the world. So who are we in his shadow to do anything otherwise? So even there, bringing those kinds of good gifts that are from God to the society may be met with a lot of resistance. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It means we should do it, but lower our expectations on how well we'll be regarded. Okay, so that's it. The idea is that we need to be ambassadors as Christians of a peace that overshadows all of the darkness that prevails in the world. Are all of us then called to be unmercenaries? No. But we are all called to be compassionate caregivers to the people around us. Even those that express violence can still show compassion. Maybe not on the battlefield, but certainly in their homes, with their friends, with the people they care about. They can be healing presences there too. And as Christians, that's exactly what we are called to be. So, if you have any desire to do such things, check out IOCC, or just find ways that you can bring peace in your own community. Do something good for a stranger. Do something good for a friend. Be a loving, kind person. And when you do that, you are working in the spirit of those great unmercenary healers that we remember today and many days throughout the year on our calendar. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you have a great day. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. But I also just want to take the time to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know there are many other things that could be done during the day, but I just want to share that I am really grateful for your time and for your efforts. And I hope, again, in some small way, that these videos are able to bring about a desire in ourselves to attend church services, to pray more, to study our faith more. I certainly hope they are. And of course, if there's anything that I could do to help towards that, please let me know, and I'll be glad to help any way that I can. So God bless you. I pray that you have a great day, and God willing, we'll see you tomorrow.